Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of October 27th. Well, first things first, we got to check the Thiensville fish camera to see what's going on over there. The king salmon are running up the Milwaukee area, well, the East Coast tributaries over there. You can see a few bait fish swimming by here. I don't see any salmon coming by right just at this moment, but I promise you I had it up most of yesterday and saw quite a few fish swimming up, and all the tribs are full of king salmon right now. So it's an exciting time, and we'll discuss this later, but I just like to pretty much constantly check this thing just because it's super cool to see what's going on over there. Otherwise, in a little bit of shop news, a little heads up here, we will be continuing the tradition of being closed for a couple weeks in November, so that'll be the November 11th to the 24th. This year, we just close her down. It's not very busy around the shop. This coincides with the gun deer season and some fantastic coho, brown trout, and steelhead fishing over on the East Coast there. So, yeah, it's just nice to get out of the office for a bit and spend some time in the woods or whatever we choose to do. But we will be open on the 25th for Small Business Saturday, and then hopefully we'll be right on the cusp, or maybe we'll even have some ice by then. Fingers crossed as far as that goes. Otherwise, a couple shop announcements. We keep posters here on the front door. I got this one up here for the annual Jam for Cans event at the VFW on Cottage Grove Road. That's November 4th in the afternoon there. Looks like it's only $3 for three perishable food items or a $3 donation to get in. So that's a great deal. And, of course, the VFW, great organization. We definitely support veterans here at the shop. And yeah, just wanted to promote this. If anybody out there has an event they want to promote, they can swing by and drop off a poster. As long as it's a local event, we're happy to do that. Just a reminder too about our winter seminar series. Going to be kicking off when we come back from vacation there on November 30th with Rick Kruger, Noah Humfeld on the 7th of December, and Pat Westberg on December 14th. So great lineup, and of course we'll be reminding you folks of that over the next several weeks. Little shop merch coming in here. Of course, we got the DNS shop hole covers. Remember to always cover your ice hole. It's very important advice out there when you're ice fishing. So we got a bunch of these in stock. Already had a bunch of folks coming through picking them up, and I'm sure they're going to be a big hit here. We also have stocking caps in. So, cold weather's right around the corner. Holidays coming up. Great gift ideas. Get somebody a cool hat for their favorite bait shop. We got orange, blaze orange, and pink on. Based on a couple of customer requests. So yeah, happy to have those in. And we do have ice stuff coming up on the shelves. We're getting a good amount of that hung up. When I say we, I actually mean Harley, who I want to also thank for doing such a great job getting a lot of that work done, because it's not super exciting. Anyway, I guess we can work on the report here, get to that. Weather-wise, we had a pretty warm week for this time of year with temps up in the 70s a couple days. Rain moved in yesterday and looks like a big cold front coming through this evening with highs in the 40s for the weekend and most of next week. So it's I personally, I think it's nice to see some cool weather coming in. The buoy on Mendota is still down, but another resource online said that Mendota surface temp was at 57 degrees this morning. The Lake Mendota USGS monitor is reading 60 degrees in Brittingham Park. But that temp is actually up from 50 to 53 degrees last week. But I imagine with all the warm rain we got yesterday, that has something to do with those temperatures taking a bit of a spike. There does seem to be some debate on whether or not the lakes have turned over. Several people claim that Monona has turned over as it had some dirty water earlier this week, which is very clear now. No reports any bad smell or chunks of stuff coming off the bottom. So I guess maybe the jury's still out there, but it sounds like Mendota's turned over. Without the Mendota buoy up and running, we can't be certain about, but with the surface temps remaining the same as last week at 57 degrees, I would have to think we've kind of stalled as far as turnover goes on Mendota. This cold snap coming in, though, should have the lake flipping over here pretty quick. I would think either maybe this weekend or early next week, and then it's game on as far as fishing goes. Generally around the chain, weeds continue to die off. Some can float to the surface, and that can be annoying depending on where you're at. Water clarity also can vary greatly, ranging from bad to almost gin clear depending on wind and turnover and where you're at. Of course, with turnover likely coming in the next couple of days on Mendota, we're bound to see some pretty poor conditions for a couple of days, but then should clear back down and be nice and clear out there. Otherwise, these cooler temps have fish settling into their fall patterns. Nice gills are still being found on weed lines and mid-lake humps on Lake Mendota, but for the most part, the suspended gills we saw all summer on the rest of the chain have moved into shallow areas. Outside of tiny fish, perch action remains basically non-existent on Mendota and elsewhere. Largemouth bass are still shallow around the chain, and smallmouth bass on Mendota fishing has been good. Walleye are still being picked up on shoreline break areas. Pike are plentiful and have their fall feed bag on, and the cooler temps have got the muskie bulking up for winter as well. Recent rains up north and the rain we had locally have, the last couple days, have the Wisconsin River up, while the Rock River appears to be running at about average for this time of year. Up here in Cherokee, the saga continues as far as the weed situation up there goes, but weeds are coming down slowly but surely, opening up some shore fishing opportunities in Cherokee Park here. Of course, as always, if you have a small boat, canoe, or kayak, you can get in the school road launch here and get out into the channel, where I understand they've been having some good bass and pike action, like it's been all summer, really. Down to the 113 bridge, I haven't heard much from the catfish folks lately, but I've heard about a few walleye coming out of there. Fish do like to move through that area this time of year, so it's really can be a kind of a nice mixed bag. Never really know what you're going to get. On Mendota, the gills are still keeping folks busy on weed lines and mid-lake humps, with a small jig and a spike or redworm working best for those fish. I do hear about the occasional crappie here and there, but those fish are scattered at best. Largemouth bass action remains good up shallow. Smallmouth bass action has been great this last week, especially for folks running minnows under a slip bobber. Walleye are still being picked up on mid-lake humps, but many of those fish are starting to show up on weed edges and right in the weeds near shoreline breaks. I'm also hearing about some good action from shore anglers, mostly at night down here in the University shoreline area, Tenney Park Breakwall, Warner Breakwall, and when I mentioned humps, I'm talking about Dunn's Bar out here, Second Point, Brearley Bars, those kind of places. But also, weed lines near steep breaks, Maple Bluff area, Governor's Island, Picnic Point, Second Point, Fox Bluff, all have been producing fish. The whole city shoreline really has had some good walleye action down there too, especially at night. Over here to Tenney Park, it sounds like with all those floating weeds, they're kind of floating through the locks down here, making fishing in there kind of difficult, but there are fish up there. People have been spotting some nice fish backed up in there. They're just a little hard to catch with all that crap floating around in the water. Tenney Park Lagoon, of course, a lot of tiny bluegills. Haven't heard many or any really big largemouth coming out of there lately, but they're still in there for sure. Walleye and bass continue to move up and down the river, but some floating stuff in there can make things tough. Heard about some walleyes coming out of the mouth of the Yahara River over here, and basically all the way down this, I don't know if you call it the west shoreline of Lake Monona, but the city shoreline, Madison's shoreline of Lake Monona, all the way down there. Walleyes kind of stack up in here this time of year from the terrace all the way down John Nolan, and I've been hearing about some great walleye action from shore anglers in those areas. Otherwise, like I mentioned before, the gills that were out deep have moved in shallow. I don't hear about many gills in many places other than Monona Bay, and from what I hear, there are just tons of gills in Monona Bay right now. A lot of folks getting them off Brittingham Park here and in the triangles. Some crappies mixed in there. I've heard about some dandy crappies actually in that 12 plus inch range, so some real nice fish. Also crappies coming off the Monona Terrace wall. Most of the crappies there, they like a slip bobber with a jig and a crappie minnow, or a minnow imitation plastic have been good. The gulp minnows we sell here at the shop are also super popular for those fish. Also a decent gill bite down there during the day. Over to Wingra, pretty much the same story as always. Tons of tiny bluegills in there. I do hear about the occasional nice bass or muskie coming out of there. They are picking up some bigger fish over here at the Wingra Dam by the hospital there. But other than that, I haven't heard much out of Wingra. The muskie bite on Monona continues to improve. Got lots of folks coming through the shop here, picking up our 12 to 16 inch suckers, running those along while they cast into shallow weeds, submerged weeds. Running shallow baits over submerged weeds is a pretty safe bet this time of year. But of course, if the rumors are correct with Monona turning over and that water being clear, and that really gets the feed bag on for those muskies, so that sucker bite really, really gets hot after turnover over here. Down to Mud Lake, it sounds like the weeds down there are dying back. Haven't heard much out of the bass folks down there, but the panfish bite sounds like it's been pretty good. So some folks floating around in there have reported some good catches lately. down on Wabisa, the panfish, pretty much the same deal as Monona, really. The panfish that were out deep have moved in shallow. Shallow weed lines are a pretty safe bet, or right in the weeds. I mentioned last week, Brian Zucke was saying he's getting them on some shallow humps around the lake. Haven't heard much from the walleye folks other than the usual kind of action over here between Babcock Park and Bible Camp. And otherwise, the muskie action on Wabisa is also great, and that sucker bite is also going to continue to improve. All right, and we're back here. So muskie action on Wabisa has been good. Kiganza flipped over almost 2 weeks ago. I haven't really heard much out of Kiganza since. But if I was fishing down there, I'd check weed lines if you're looking for panfish or walleyes, really. But a lot of the walleye action down here comes out of the state park area. Down to the Rock River and Lake Koshkonong. I hear the walleye bite down there has been picking up pretty good, getting some nice fish. The Indian Ford and Jefferson dams have been having some fish show up, stacking up there a little bit. Got some white bass, a few walleye, sauger stuff in there. I did hear up at the Jefferson Dam. Online I read, I think it was on Lake Link or something, a guy got into a bunch of carp up there. So some dandies too, it sounded like. So if carp are your thing, maybe check that out. Haven't heard a lot out of Beaver Dam or Crystal Lake, like I've been talking about the last few weeks. Haven't heard anything specific out of Devil's Lake. That's got to be flipped or close to flipping there. And once that happens, those browns start to roam around the shores, getting ready to spawn and look for food there. Otherwise, on the Wisconsin River, like I mentioned before, the rains up north. And what we've seen locally have river levels up and above their seasonal averages this time of year. This influx of water has a great mixed bag of fish concentrating at the dams up and down the river. Sounds like good walleye and sauger and white bass bite at those dams. Otherwise, other places on the river, the smallmouth are still out there and still chasing around big schools of shad. They're at the Prairie du Sac Dam. You never know what you'll get up there. Heard about a good muskie bite and pike bite. Usually between the dam there and then Highway 12 down to here. I know a lot of folks like to float that for muskies. Lake Wisconsin, I've been hearing about the walleye bites, been picking up here. Size is a little bit better. Panfish have been active in some of your shallow bays around the lake. Look for wood and structure, and they've been getting crappie, perch, and bluegills, depending on who you talk to. I haven't heard much, I guess, from Portage up to Wisconsin Dells, but that's some great smallmouth water in there. The Dells Dam has been producing some white bass from what I hear, a few crappies and some walleye and sauger in there. So usual nice mixed bag. Like I said, all the dams up and down the river hold a fun mixed bag of fish. You never know what you'll get. Haven't heard much out of Castle Rock Lake, but they got a dam there. And then up to Petenwell, same thing at the dam there. I don't know if it said flood warning there. I don't know what that means, but anyway, the Petenwell itself has been producing some good walleyes. I've heard about some good action, anywhere from 4 to 28 feet of water. So kind of a range there. Jigging a minnow has been super effective, but big fatheads, chubs, or a small sucker have been producing larger fish from what I hear. Like I said, haven't heard much out of Castle Rock, but the dams are always a pretty safe bet. And I know they do well on muskies too below those dams. Over here to the Mississippi River. It sounds like the action over there continues to be great. Folks on the Clements Barge have been getting a good mixed bag of fish with walleye and sauger showing up in better numbers. Sounds like upstream up here in Pool 8, the perch and are being found on weed edges, crappies in deeper holes, gills pretty much everywhere else, walleye and some good smallmouth on wing dams over there on the river. Like I mentioned in the intro, I guess the biggest news in my world anyway is that the Kings are starting to run up the rivers. Actually, they have been for over a week now, but everywhere from the Root River to the Menominee to the Milwaukee to Sauk Creek, all the way up the East Coast here. There's Kings up in the river right now. I had a post earlier this week. My son and I were out. I got a couple pics here. Got a couple nice Kings. They're just super fun to fish. We don't eat them. We just let them go. Some people smoke them as long as they're pretty fresh. Like this fish I caught here actually looks like it's in pretty decent shape, so it might be good for a smoker. The one my son here got's a little darker, and then they'll start to get the flesh will start to fall off as they continue their spawning ritual. But that action is great right now. But as these cool temps come in, we get a little rain here. The cool temps coming in this weekend is going to drop the temps, and then the cohos will start swimming up. So coho salmon smaller than the kings, but a lot of fun, pretty fish. The males get nice and red, and then
Browns and steelhead come in with those fish, and then a lot of those fish will hang out all winter over here. But until it gets icy, you can get some good action over there. So yeah, I like to run big, dark colored woolly conehead woolly bugger looking things with an egg pattern or a buggy nymph behind it. I guess that's kind of a good segue into Happy Fly Day here. I got a couple conehead woolly bugger. These are articulated, so they have two hooks on them. This back tail here on these swim a little bit, swim back and forth, give it some nice action. But you wave those in front of a king's face enough, they're going to get pissed off and grab it. Same thing with the cohos. Cohos will straight chase them right down. And then the browns and steelhead love these too. But this purple is called a geisha girl. This one's called a, what is it? I can't remember anymore. And the ebony here is this one. So yeah. Anyway, great selections here, and yeah, great time to be out on the water. I guess that pretty much does it for the report. Feel free to call the shop here at 241-4225 if you'd like us to expand on anything. Otherwise, yeah, post your catches and comments below, and wish you luck out there, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks so much.